The night my son asked for the keys, the ocean was louder than usual. I remember thinking it sounded like warning bells, not waves. He stood in my doorway smiling, the same smile I taught him as a child, polite, rehearsed, careful. And in that moment, before he even spoke, I felt something precious begin to loosen inside my chest. I've owned that beach house for 23 years. I bought it after my wife died, when the walls of our regular home felt too quiet, too full of echoes. The beach house became the place where grief softened, where mornings smelled like salt and coffee, and evenings felt survivable. It was never just property to me. It was where I relearned how to breathe. My son, Aaron, grew up there. Summers chasing gulls, winters wrapped in blankets, listening to storms hit the windows. When he married Lena 2 years ago, I truly believed I was gaining a daughter, not losing a son. Lena was warm, attentive in that gentle, careful way. She remembered small things, how I liked my tea, how I never locked the back door at the beach because the ocean already knows me. So when Aaron said, "Dad, we need to talk," I told myself it was just another adult conversation. Bills, work, maybe a grandchild someday. He sat down slowly, as if choosing his posture mattered. Lena's parents are having a hard time, he said. Financially, emotionally, everything, really. I nodded. Compassion comes easy when you think you're being trusted with the truth. They've never really recovered since they lost their house, Lena added softly. And the rent where they are now, it's just not sustainable. Still, nothing felt wrong. Not yet. Aaron cleared his throat. So we were thinking, maybe they could stay at the beach house for a while. The word while hung there. Vague, untouchable. I laughed lightly, thinking he was joking. Stay for a weekend? Sure, it's winter anyway. No, he said gently. Longer than that. That's when the ocean went quiet in my ears. They explained it carefully. How her parents needed stability. How the sea air would be good for her mother's lungs. How I wasn't there most of the year anyway. Every sentence wrapped in logic, padded with affection. I remember watching my son's hands as he spoke. He used to fidget when he lied as a boy. Tap his thumb against his index finger. Over and over. He wasn't doing that now. Which somehow felt worse. I asked the obvious questions. How long? Who would pay utilities? Would they treat the place with care? Of course, Lena said quickly. We'd never let anything happen to it. It's your sanctuary. That word, sanctuary, felt rehearsed. I told them I'd think about it. That night, I drove to the beach house alone. I unlocked the door and stood there in the dark, listening. The house has a way of speaking if you let it. Floorboards that remember footsteps, windows that remember laughter. I sat in my wife's old chair and imagined strangers there. Their voices, their habits, their rearranged furniture. I told myself I was being selfish. Over the next few weeks, Aaron called more often. Just to check in, he said. Lena started sending photos, her mother smiling, her father fishing on a pier. Subtle reminders, gentle pressure disguised as family warmth. And I noticed something else. They stopped asking how I was. At dinner one night, Aaron mentioned renovations. Just small things, he said. Nothing permanent. I smiled. There's nothing small about changing a place that holds someone's memories. He looked confused, or pretended to. Dad, you're not losing it, he said. You're sharing it. That sentence stayed with me. It sounded generous, noble, but sharing implies choice. And lately, I felt like the choice was already being made without me. I agreed, on one condition. 6 months. No more. Everything in writing. The house remains mine, untouched. They agreed too quickly. The move-in day came quietly. No big farewell. I handed Aaron the keys on the porch. He hugged me longer than usual. Lena thanked me with tears in her eyes. You won't regret this, she whispered. As I drove away, I watched the house shrink in my rearview mirror. For the first time, it didn't feel like it was waiting for me. Weeks passed, then months. I tried to visit once, unannounced. Aaron said it wasn't a good time. Too much going on. Lena's mother was unwell. Maybe next week. Next week never came. Then one afternoon, I got a call from a neighbor. Just thought you should know, she said hesitantly, there are a lot of cars there now. People I don't recognize. And they took down your wind chimes. My wind chimes. I told myself it was nothing. Decorations change. People settle in. That night, an email arrived from a real estate office. Regarding your coastal property. I stared at the screen, my heart slowing in a way that felt deliberate. I hadn't listed anything. I hadn't authorized anything. And somewhere, Far away, the ocean kept whispering. Not like waves this time, but like a door quietly locking from the inside. I didn't open the email right away. I just stared at the sender's name, my thumb hovering over the screen, as if delaying it could keep the truth from solidifying. Real estate offices don't email people by accident. They don't guess. They don't wonder. When I finally opened it, my chest tightened, not because of what it said, but because of what it assumed. We're preparing the preliminary documents for transfer. Please confirm availability for final walkthrough. Transfer. Not sale. Not inquiry. Transfer. As if the decision had already been made. As if I had already agreed. I called Aaron immediately. Straight to voicemail. I told myself there had to be an explanation. A misunderstanding. A clerical error. I had raised my son better than to move pieces behind someone's back. I had taught him that trust was not something you borrowed, it was something you carried carefully, like glass. The next morning, I drove to the beach house without calling ahead. The driveway was full, not just 1 or 2 cars, 6, 7. I didn't recognize a single one. My heart began to pound in a slow, deliberate rhythm, like it was counting each step I took toward the door. The porch looked different. My wife's old planter was gone. The bench I built with Aaron when he was 14 had been moved to the side, partially hidden. Even the color of the door looked off. Fresh. Repainted. I knocked. Lena's mother opened it, surprised. Not pleased. Just surprised. "Oh," she said, "you're early." Early. I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. The smell hit me first. Not the ocean, not wood polish, but unfamiliar cooking spices and heavy perfume. The walls were bare where my photos used to be. The bookshelf had been rearranged, my old journals gone, replaced with decorative objects that meant nothing to me. Voices echoed from the kitchen. Laughter. Plates clinking. This wasn't a temporary stay. This was occupation. Aaron came out last. His smile froze the moment he saw me. "Dad," he said carefully. "You should have called." "I did," I replied. My voice sounded steady, which surprised me. "You didn't answer." Lena appeared behind him. Her eyes flicked to her parents, then back to me. "We were going to tell you," she said. I nodded slowly. "About the email." Silence. The ocean outside crashed hard against the shore, loud enough to shake the windows. No one spoke. No one moved. And in that stillness, something settled into place inside me, heavy, undeniable. Aaron finally sighed. "It's not what you think." "That's rarely a good sentence," I said. They explained it in pieces. How her parents wanted security. How paperwork made things easier. How it was temporary, a word that had lost all meaning. How my name would stay involved. How nothing would really change. I walked to the window and looked out at the water. My reflection stared back at me, older than I remembered. "You used my trust as leverage," I said quietly. "You didn't ask. You assumed." Aaron's voice sharpened. "You weren't using the house." There it was. Not anger. Not greed. Entitlement. "I wasn't using my wedding ring either," I replied, turning to face him. "That didn't mean it stopped being mine." Lena stepped forward, her tone soothing, practiced. "We just thought. You thought I'd stay silent," I said. "Because I always do." I realized then how carefully this had been orchestrated. The calls. The photos. The slow erasing of my presence. Not one dramatic betrayal, but a patient one. I asked them all to sit down. They did. I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Inside were copies of documents they hadn't known I'd already secured. Property protections. Legal boundaries. Safeguards I'd put in place years ago, back when grief taught me the cost of losing what matters. The mood shifted. Aaron's face drained of color as he flipped through the pages. "You planned this?" he asked. I prepared, I corrected him. "There's a difference." Lena's father cleared his throat. "This seems unnecessary." I met his eyes. So did the email. I stood, my hands steady now. "You are guests here, not owners, not decision makers. And guests don't erase the people who opened the door." Aaron looked at me then, not as a son, but as someone realizing the ground beneath him wasn't as solid as he'd believed. "What happens now?" he asked. I picked up my keys from the table. The same keys I had handed over months ago, believing love would be enough. "Now," I said, "we reset the boundaries you forgot existed." As I walked back onto the porch, the wind caught the empty space where my wind chimes used to hang. I made a mental note to replace them, not because I needed the sound, but because I wanted the house to remember my presence again. Behind me, the door stayed closed. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was the one being shut out.